The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed beneath the transparent dome, and the walls were lined with the flags and symbols of over 200 spacefaring species. For 3,000 years, this chamber had been the center of all interstellar politics, the place where wars ended and alliances began, where the fate of entire worlds was decided with a vote. Ambassador Catherine Cole had dreamed of standing here since she was a little girl watching news broadcasts from Earth. Back then, humanity had only just discovered faster-than-light travel, only just learned that they were not alone in the universe. The Coalition had welcomed them with open arms and kind words, offering protection and guidance to the young species, taking its first steps into the stars. That was 300 years ago. Catherine had learned since then that those kind words had hidden sharp teeth. She walked down the central aisle toward the speaking platform, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. Behind her came Admiral Henry Shaw, a man whose silver hair and weathered face told the story of 4 decades spent defending Earth's interests in a galaxy that cared nothing for them. He had buried too many soldiers in nameless graves on distant worlds, fighting wars that benefited only the Coalition's core members. The delegates watched them approach with expressions ranging from boredom to mild curiosity. The Valkyries sat in their crystal thrones, their 4 eyes tracking every movement with predatory attention. The Gethrani delegation sprawled across cushioned platforms, their serpentine bodies coiled in elaborate patterns that supposedly conveyed status and mood. The Thornaki stood motionless in their environmental suits, beings of living stone who measured their lives in millennia rather than decades. Catherine reached the platform and took a moment to steady herself. She had spent 6 months preparing for this speech, had run simulations of every possible response, had studied the psychology and culture of every major species in the chamber. She knew that what she was about to request would be difficult. She had not expected it to be impossible. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustic systems to reach every corner of the vast space. "I come before you today as the voice of Earth and her 12 colony worlds. For 3 centuries, humanity has served the Coalition faithfully. Our soldiers have bled and died defending borders that were not our own. Our scientists have contributed to research programs that benefited species who refused to share the results with us. Our miners have extracted resources from asteroids and moons, sending 90% of everything they found to Coalition coffers, while our own people struggled with shortages." She paused, letting the words settle. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably, but most maintained expressions of practiced indifference. "We have done all of this," Catherine continued, "because we believed in the Coalition's promise. We believed that one day humanity would be recognized as equal partners in this great galactic community. We believed that our contributions would matter, that our sacrifices would be remembered, that our voices would be heard." She straightened her spine and lifted her chin. "Today, I formally request that Earth be elevated to full Council membership, with all the rights and privileges that status entails. Our economic output now exceeds 17 member worlds combined. Our military forces have proven themselves in 12 major conflicts. Our cultural and scientific contributions have enriched the Coalition in ways that cannot be measured in credits alone. We have earned this recognition. We deserve this recognition, and we respectfully request that the Council grant it." Silence filled the chamber for exactly 3 seconds. Then the laughter began. It started with the Valkyrie delegation, a clicking, chittering sound that their translators rendered as mocking amusement. The Gethrani joined in with their hissing giggles, and soon half the chamber was laughing openly at the human ambassador and her ridiculous request. High, Speaker Zontal rose from his crystal throne, his 4 eyes glittering with cruel delight. He was the oldest and most powerful member of the council, a being who had watched empires rise and fall for over 800 years. When he spoke, even the laughter fell silent. "The humans wish to be considered equals," he said, his translator converting the clicks and whistles of his native tongue into perfect English. How charming. How delightfully naive. Tell me, Ambassador Cole, do you also consult with the insects before you step on them? Do you ask permission from the bacteria before you wash your hands? More laughter rippled through the chamber. Catherine felt her face grow hot, but she did not look away from the high speaker's mocking gaze. "Earth is useful," Zorntal continued, descending from his throne to approach the speaking platform. "We have always said this. Your species breeds quickly and dies quickly, which makes you excellent soldiers for conflicts we would rather not waste our own people on. Your homeworld is rich in certain minerals that are tedious to extract elsewhere. Your scientists occasionally produce interesting ideas that our own researchers can develop into something actually worthwhile. But equals? The very notion is absurd." The Kethrani delegate, a female whose scales shimmered with iridescent patterns, slithered forward to add her voice. "Humans live for what? A century at most? Many of us in this chamber remember the day your species first stumbled into the stars, frightened and confused, begging for protection from dangers you could not comprehend. That was barely 300 years ago. The Thonaki delegate in the corner was already ancient when your ancestors were still living in caves and hitting each other with rocks." She turned to address the full chamber, her voice dripping with contempt. "What wisdom can such mayflies offer us? What perspective can creatures who flicker in and out of existence like sparks from a fire bring to deliberations that span millennia? Humanity should be grateful that we permit them to exist within our borders at all. They should be thankful that we did not simply take their world and use them as we saw fit. Instead, we offered them partnership, protection, a place in our great coalition. And how do they repay our generosity? With demands, with pretensions of equality, with this pathetic display." Admiral Shaw's hand tightened on Catherine's shoulder. She could feel the barely controlled rage radiating from him, the desire to say something, do something, respond to the insults being heaped upon them and their entire species. But she placed her own hand over his, a silent signal to remain calm. "I understand the Council's position," Catherine said quietly. Her voice was steady, but there was something new in her eyes, something cold and hard that had not been there before. "I will convey your response to Earth. I am certain that my government will find your words illuminating." She turned to leave, then paused and looked back over her shoulder at the still laughing delegates. "I hope you will remember this day, High Speaker. I hope you will remember exactly what you said and how you said it and who was laughing. Because I promise you, humanity will never forget." She walked out of the chamber with Admiral Shaw at her side. Behind her, the laughter continued, but it was already beginning to fade as a few of the more perceptive delegates noticed a small, strange smile on the human ambassador's face. None of them noticed the tiny recording device she had left beneath the speaking platform, capturing every word and every laugh for posterity. None of them suspected that they had just made the worst mistake in the history of their coalition, and none of them could have imagined what would come next. The recording played on a loop in the Oval Office, filling the room with the sound of alien laughter. President Daniel Carter sat behind his desk, his hands folded beneath his chin, his eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed High Speaker Zorntal mocking humanity in front of the entire Galactic Council. Around him sat the most powerful people on Earth and her colonies. General Maria Santos, the commander of all human military forces, stood near the window with her arms crossed and her jaw tight. Secretary of State Patricia Holt occupied one of the leather chairs, her tablet filled with notes and analysis. Admiral Henry Shaw had returned from the council chamber just 6 hours ago, and the anger in his gray eyes had not dimmed one bit. The recording finished. The room fell silent. "How long have they been saying things like this?" President Carter asked quietly. Patricia answered first. "Our intelligence suggests that this attitude has been common among coalition leadership for at least 2 centuries. They simply stopped hiding it as carefully in recent decades. They believe we have no choice but to accept whatever treatment they give us. And do we have a choice?" General Santos turned from the window. "We do now, sir. Project Horizon is fully operational. We have been preparing for this moment for 12 years. President Carter nodded slowly. He had authorized Project Horizon during his first term, back when he was still naive enough to hope that the coalition might eventually treat humanity fairly. The project had begun as a contingency plan, a backup option in case diplomacy failed completely. Over the years, as the insults and exploitation continued, it had grown into something much larger. "Tell me the numbers," the president said. Admiral Shaw stepped forward, activating his own holographic display. A map of known space appeared, showing the vast territory controlled by the coalition, with Earth's modest holdings marked in a small blue cluster near the edge. "The Veil fleet currently consists of 247 warships," Shaw began. 12 carriers, 48 battlecruisers, 86 destroyers, and 101 support vessels. Every single one was built in the deep asteroid belt, far from coalition sensors and inspection teams. They use jump drive technology that we reverse-engineered from captured pirate vessels and improved significantly. Our shields are 40% more efficient than anything the coalition currently fields. Our weapons include several systems that no other species has ever developed. He highlighted several locations on the map. We have established hidden supply bases at 17 points throughout coalition space, disguised as mining operations or scientific stations. We have stockpiled fuel, ammunition, food, and medical supplies sufficient to sustain operations for 18 months without any external support. We have trained crews for every vessel, with backup crews ready to step in if needed. And the economic preparations? Carter asked. Patricia took over. Over the past 15 years, we have quietly reduced our dependence on coalition trade. We now produce 92% of our essential goods domestically or through hidden agreements with outer-reach worlds who are equally dissatisfied with coalition rule. We have built manufacturing capacity that the coalition knows nothing about. We have diversified our food production to the point where a complete trade embargo would cause inconvenience but not starvation. We have stockpiled rare minerals and compounds that would otherwise require coalition imports. She pulled up another display showing economic projections. If we withdraw from all coalition treaties tomorrow, our economy will experience a shock. There will be difficult months ahead, but we will survive and we will recover. And within 5 years, we will be stronger than we ever were as coalition members. President Carter stood and walked to the window. Outside, the White House lawn stretched green and peaceful under a summer sky. Children played in the distant park. Cars moved along the streets. Life continued as normal, unaware that their world was about to change forever. 417 treaties, he said softly. That is how many agreements bind us to the coalition. Trade deals, defense pacts, technology sharing arrangements, territorial concessions, mining rights, navigation permissions, cultural exchange programs. Every single one was signed when we were desperate, when we needed their protection, when we had nothing to bargain with except our gratitude and our hope. He turned back to face the room. They have used those treaties to drain us dry. They have taken our resources, our soldiers, our innovations, and given us scraps in return. They have treated us as servants while calling us partners. They have laughed at us while pretending to be our friends. His voice hardened. No more. Draft a withdrawal notice for every treaty we have ever signed with the Coalition. Every single one. Make it effective immediately. I want it delivered to the Council within the hour." Patricia hesitated. "Sir, the diplomatic consequences will be severe. They may respond with military force. Let them try." Admiral Shaw's voice was cold. "Let them see what their servants have been building while they were busy laughing at us. Let them learn what happens when you push a species too far." General Santos nodded in agreement. "Our forces are ready. We have planned for every possible response. If they attack, we will defend ourselves. If they blockade, we will break through. If they attempt to isolate us, we will build new alliances with the dozens of species in the outer reach who hate the Coalition as much as we do." President Carter looked at each of them in turn. Seeing the determination in their eyes, the years of humiliation channeled into cold, hard purpose. "There is one more thing," he said. "The recording from the Council chamber. I want it broadcast to every human world, every colony, every station. I want every person in our territory to see exactly what the Coalition thinks of us. I want them to understand why we are doing what we are about to do." He sat back down behind his desk and pulled a formal document toward him. 2 hours ago, they called us mayflies. They said we should be grateful they permit us to exist. They laughed at the idea that we might deserve respect. He signed the withdrawal declaration with a firm hand. Let us show them how wrong they were. Let us teach them that even mayflies can swarm. Let us make them understand that humanity bows to no one. The document was transmitted within the hour. Across human space, billions of people watched the recording of the Council meeting, saw their ambassador humiliated, heard the aliens laughing at the very idea that humans deserve to be treated as equals, and then they watched their president announce that Earth was done accepting insults, done being exploited, done pretending that the Coalition's contempt was somehow acceptable. The treaties were dead. The old relationship was over, and something new was about to begin. In the Coalition capital, High Speaker Zorntal received the withdrawal notice with something approaching genuine surprise. For a long moment, he simply stared at the message, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. Then he began to laugh again. The humans were bluffing, of course. They had to be. They had nothing, no power, no leverage. No way to survive without the Coalition's protection and support. They would come crawling back within a month, begging for forgiveness, accepting whatever new humiliations the Council chose to impose. He was certain of it. He had never been more wrong about anything in his 800 years of life. 3 days after Earth's withdrawal from every Coalition treaty, 17 suns rose on 17 different worlds to reveal something impossible. Ships. Human ships. Warships of designs that no one in the Coalition had ever seen before, hanging in orbit above the most important worlds in known space. They had appeared without warning, without any sign of approach, without triggering a single sensor or alarm system. One moment the skies were empty. The next moment, they were filled with vessels bearing the blue and white colors of Earth. On the Valkyrie homeworld, the morning light caught the hull of the carrier USS Defiance as it held position directly above the capital city. The massive vessel stretched nearly 2 miles from bow to stern, bristling with weapons ports and fighter launch bays, surrounded by a screen of destroyers and support ships. Admiral Henry Shaw stood on the bridge, watching the planet below with the same calm patience he had learned in 4 decades of service. "Open a channel to High Speaker Zorntal," he ordered. "Let us have a conversation." The communication officers worked quickly, and within moments, the High Speaker's face appeared on the main view screen. For the first time in anyone's memory, Zorntal looked genuinely afraid. His 4 eyes were wide, his crystalline skin had paled to a sickly gray, and his voice cracked when he spoke. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You cannot be here. Humans do not have jump drive capability. The treaties forbade us from sharing that technology with you. We made certain that you would always be dependent on our jump gates, always limited to the routes we chose to allow you. Admiral Shaw allowed himself a small, cold smile. The treaties you violated 17 times in the past decade alone? The treaties that let you dump toxic waste in our oceans while calling it agricultural assistance? The treaties that forced our soldiers to fight your wars while denying us medicine that could have saved millions of our children? Those treaties are gone, High Speaker. We are no longer bound by their restrictions. But the technology, Zorntal insisted, his voice rising with desperation. Where did you get jump drives? How did you build these ships without our knowledge? We monitor your shipyards, your research facilities, your military installations. We would have seen construction on this scale. You saw what we wanted you to see. The Admiral's smile widened slightly. For 12 years, we built in secret. Deep in the asteroid belt, far from your sensors and your spy satellites and your inspection teams. We captured pirate vessels that used stolen coalition technology. We reverse-engineered their jump drives. We improved them. We developed weapons and shields that your scientists never imagined. And all the while, your ambassadors smiled at us and accepted our tribute and laughed about the stupid humans who would never amount to anything. He leaned forward, and his voice became hard as steel. We remembered every laugh, High Speaker. We remembered every insult. We remembered the names of every soldier who died fighting your wars for no reward. We remembered the children who died from diseases you could have cured, but chose not to share with lesser species. We remembered everything, and we used that memory to fuel 12 years of secret preparation for this exact moment. On the view screen, Zorntal seemed to shrink, his arrogance draining away like water through sand. Behind him, alarms were blaring as the Velthari military scrambled to respond to the impossible threat in their skies. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "If this is about the council meeting, I can arrange for a new hearing. I can propose your elevation to full membership myself. I can make amends for the insults that were spoken. Just tell me what you want, and we can negotiate." Admiral Shaw shook his head slowly. "We do not want membership in your coalition, High Speaker. We do not want a seat at a table where we will always be seen as lesser beings, tolerated at best and despised at worst. We want something much simpler. Name it. We want you to understand that the age of human submission is over. We want you to know that we are no longer servants or soldiers or resources to be exploited. We want you to remember this day, this moment, the sight of human warships in your skies, and we want you to tell every member of your council exactly what you saw." The Admiral stood up straight, his gray eyes blazing with cold fire. "Tell them that humanity has returned their treaties, their contempt, and their laughter. Tell them that we ask nothing from the coalition, and we owe nothing to the coalition. Tell them that any species that wishes to trade with us fairly and treat us with respect is welcome to do so. And tell them that any species that attempts to threaten us, attack us, or return to the old ways of exploitation will learn exactly how much we held back during all those years of service." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We could destroy your fleet right now, High Speaker. We have the firepower. We have the positioning. Your ships are still scrambling to launch, and our weapons are already locked on every military target in range. But that is not why we are here. We are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We are simply a species that has had enough of being treated as less than we are." Across the 17 worlds where human fleets had appeared, similar conversations were taking place. On the Kathrani homeworld, Captain Lisa Perry addressed the Serpentine delegation that had laughed loudest at the council meeting. On the Thornaki border stations, Commander Nathan Brooks explained to the ancient stone beings that humanity's patience had finally run out. On dozens of other worlds, human officers delivered the same message with the same calm, controlled anger. The coalition scrambled to respond. Military commanders demanded permission to attack the human vessels. Politicians screamed at each other in emergency sessions. Intelligence agencies desperately tried to understand how they had missed something so enormous for so long, but no one attacked. Because everyone could see the same thing. The human ships were superior. Their shields glowed with unfamiliar energy signatures. Their weapons ports hummed with barely contained power. Their positioning was perfect, their crews disciplined, their commanders utterly confident. For the first time in 3,000 years, the great powers of the coalition felt something they had never experienced before. They felt afraid, not of what the humans might do, but of what they might have become while no one was paying attention. On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Admiral Shaw watched Zorntal struggle to process everything that had happened. The High Speaker, who had mocked humanity just days ago, now looked like a frightened child confronting a nightmare. "One more thing," Shaw said quietly. "That recording from the council meeting? The one where you called us mayflies and laughed at the idea of human equality? It has been broadcast to every corner of human space. Every man, woman, and child in our territory has seen your face and heard your words. They know exactly what you think of them." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Congratulations, High Speaker. You have united humanity more completely than any leader in our history ever managed. You have given us a common enemy, a shared grievance, a reason to stand together against a galaxy that despised us. Whatever happens next, you will be remembered as the being who accidentally created the most determined and unified species the universe has ever seen." The channel closed. The Valkyrie stared at the human fleet in their sky, and for the first time in 800 years, High Speaker Zorntal understood what it felt like to be small and weak and afraid. The age of human submission was over. The age of human power had begun. The weeks following the revelation changed everything. The old order that had governed the galaxy for 3,000 years began to crack and crumble. And in its place, something new started to grow. Commander Lisa Perry traveled to the Outer Reach, that vast frontier region where dozens of minor species survived under coalition rule. These were the forgotten peoples of the galaxy, the races too small to matter and too weak to resist. They had suffered in silence for centuries, paying tribute they could not afford, watching their young people conscripted into wars that were not their own, accepting abuse because they had no other choice. Lisa met with their leaders in secret, on a small station orbiting a dying star that the coalition had long since abandoned. The representatives of 18 different species gathered in a cramped conference room, their faces showing a mixture of hope and suspicion that she had seen many times before. "Earth is not asking for tribute," she told them. "We are not demanding soldiers or resources or territory. We are offering something different. We are offering partnership." The Drenari ambassador, a small being with gray skin and enormous dark eyes, leaned forward in his chair. His people had been under coalition rule for over 400 years, reduced from a proud civilization to a source of cheap labor for Valkyrie mining operations. "The coalition made similar promises when they first arrived in our space," he said, his voice bitter with old pain. "They spoke of protection and cooperation and mutual benefit. Then they took everything we had and left us with nothing but debt and servitude. Why should we believe that humans will be any different?" Lisa nodded slowly. She had expected this question. She would have asked it herself. "Because we were them," she answered simply. 30 years ago, humans were exactly where you are now. Exploited, dismissed, laughed at when we dared to ask for basic respect. We know what it feels like to be treated as lesser beings. We know the anger and the humiliation and the desperate hope that someday things might change. We are not offering you friendship out of kindness. We are offering it because we understand, and because together we can build something better than what the coalition ever gave us. The negotiations lasted for 3 weeks. There were arguments, doubts, and moments when everything nearly fell apart. But slowly, carefully, trust began to form. The outer reach species saw that the humans meant what they said. They saw trade agreements that did not demand 90% of everything produced. They saw military alliances that did not require surrendering their young people to die in foreign wars. They saw respect, genuine respect, from a species that had no reason to lie. One by one, they signed new treaties with Earth. The Drenari were first, their ambassador weeping openly as he added his mark to a document that promised his people would never again be treated as slaves. The Kordath followed, then the Silurians, then the Wendari. Within a month, the Earth Alliance had grown from a single species to a coalition of 19. With more considering membership every day, the Galactic Coalition watched this development with growing alarm. High Speaker Zontal demanded military action, but the admirals who might have carried out such orders hesitated. They had seen the human fleet. They had analyzed the weapons and shields on those vessels. They knew that any attack would be costly beyond measure, and they were no longer certain they would win. Still, some in the coalition believed that a show of force might intimidate the humans into backing down. The 4th Velthari Fleet, 87 warships under the command of Admiral Krestal, was dispatched to intercept a human convoy near Crassia Station. The convoy carried medical supplies and food for a Drenari colony that had recently joined the Earth Alliance. It was protected by a single human destroyer, the USS Resilience. Under the command of Captain Nathan Brooks, the Velthari fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons already powered and their shields raised. They outnumbered the human vessel by 87 to 1. Admiral Krestal opened the communication channel with complete confidence. "Human vessel, you are in violation of coalition territorial boundaries. You will surrender your cargo and submit to inspection, or you will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply." Captain Brooks studied the Velthari formation on his tactical display. His crew waited at their stations, calm and ready, trained for exactly this situation. "Velthari fleet," he responded. "These are no longer coalition territorial boundaries. The Drenari have withdrawn from your organization and joined the Earth Alliance. This cargo is bound for their colony, and it will reach its destination. You will stand down and allow us to pass, or you will face the consequences of your aggression." Admiral Krestal laughed, a clicking sound that his translator rendered with perfect contempt. "One ship against 87? Your arrogance is amusing, human. Perhaps we should simply disable you and tow your vessel back to the homeworld as a trophy. Fire on my command." The Velthari weapons spoke first, beams of coherent energy lancing across space toward the small human destroyer. On any other ship from any other species, those beams would have torn through shields and hull alike, leaving nothing but drifting wreckage. The USS Resilience did not explode. Its shields flared bright blue, absorbing the barrage without any sign of strain. The energy that should have destroyed the vessel simply vanished, converted into harmless radiation by technology the Velthari had never seen. "My turn," Captain Brooks said quietly. The Resilience fired a single volley. 3 Velthari cruisers, including Admiral Krestal's flagship, went dark instantly. Their weapons fell silent, their engines died, their shields collapsed. They drifted helplessly in space, completely disabled but not destroyed. "You are still alive," Brooks transmitted to the paralyzed fleet. "Your ships can be repaired, your crews are unharmed, and your admiral is probably very confused right now about what just happened." Consider this a demonstration of what we could do if we chose to. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to." He paused, letting the reality of the situation sink in for the surviving Velthari commanders. "Go home. Tell your council what you saw here today. Tell them that the humans have weapons you cannot defend against and technology you cannot match. Tell them that we use the minimum force necessary to protect ourselves, because we are not interested in slaughter. We are not conquerors. We are not monsters. We are simply people who refuse to be pushed around any longer." The remaining Velthari ships retreated without firing another shot. The convoy continued on its way, delivering food and medicine to a colony that had never expected anyone to care about their survival. Word of the battle spread quickly. The story grew with each telling, but the core facts remained unchanged. One human ship had disabled 3 coalition warships and driven off an entire fleet without destroying a single vessel or killing a single enemy. It was not just a military victory. It was a message. The humans were powerful enough to win, and civilized enough to show mercy. Across the outer reach, species that had been considering alliance with Earth made their decisions. If the humans could protect the Drenari against the Velthari Fourth Fleet, they could protect anyone. Within weeks, the Earth Alliance had grown to 23 member species, with several more in negotiations. The coalition was shrinking. The old order was dying. And at the center of it all, humanity was building something new. Something based on fairness and respect, rather than exploitation and contempt. In her office on Earth, Ambassador Catherine Cole reviewed the latest diplomatic reports with something approaching satisfaction. 3 months ago, she had walked out of the council chamber in humiliation. Now she was helping to reshape the galaxy. "It is not revenge," she said quietly to Admiral Shaw, who had stopped by to deliver a military briefing. "At least, I hope it is not revenge. I hope we are better than that." The Admiral nodded slowly. "We are building what they should have built 3,000 years ago. A community of equals, cooperating for mutual benefit instead of exploiting each other for profit. If that happens to hurt the coalition, well, that is simply a consequence of doing the right thing." Catherine smiled, but her eyes remained serious. "We have won the first battles, but the war is not over yet. The coalition will not accept their decline quietly. Sooner or later, they will try something desperate." "Let them try," Shaw replied. "We will be ready." Outside the window, the sun was setting over a world that had changed forever. And somewhere in the depths of space, the fleets of the Earth Alliance stood watch, protecting a future that no one had thought possible just a few months before. 1 year had passed since the day Catherine Cole walked out of the Galactic Council chamber with the sound of alien laughter echoing behind her. 1 year of change, of conflict, of a galaxy reshaping itself around a species that everyone had dismissed as insignificant. Now she returned to that same chamber. But everything was different. The vast hall still stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. The flags and symbols of 200 spacefaring species still lined the walls. But the atmosphere had changed completely. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked very much like fear. The casual contempt that had once filled every interaction with human diplomats had vanished, replaced by careful respect and nervous attention. Catherine walked down the central aisle with her head held high. Behind her came Admiral Henry Shaw, General Maria Santos, and a delegation of representatives from the 23 species that now comprised the Earth Alliance. They moved with quiet confidence, knowing that the power balance had shifted permanently in their favor. High Speaker Zorntal watched them approach from his crystal throne. He looked older than he had a year ago, worn down by months of crisis and decline. The coalition had lost nearly a quarter of its territory to the new alliance. Trade revenues had collapsed as species chose to do business with Earth instead. Military commanders whispered about defecting. The great order that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was crumbling, and everyone knew it. Catherine reached the speaking platform and took a moment to look around the chamber. She saw the faces of beings who had laughed at her, mocked her, called her species mayflies and insects and livestock. She saw the Kithrani delegate who had suggested that humans should be grateful to exist at all. She saw the Thonaki representative who had remained silent during the insults, doing nothing to defend the young species that had served them faithfully for 3 centuries. She saw fear in their eyes, uncertainty, the desperate hope that maybe, somehow, the humans had come to negotiate rather than to destroy. "I am not here to gloat," Catherine began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "Humanity does not need the Council's approval anymore. We have proven that. Our fleet controls the approaches to 30 star systems. Our alliance includes species that were once your most loyal subjects. Our economy is thriving while yours declines. We have nothing to gain from being here, and nothing to lose by walking away." She paused, letting the words settle into the uncomfortable silence. "But we are here anyway, because we believe in something that you seem to have forgotten. We believe in cooperation. We believe in mutual respect. We believe that the galaxy does not have to be ruled by exploitation and contempt." She activated a holographic display, showing a map of known space. The Coalition territory was marked in red, the Earth Alliance in blue. A year ago, the blue had been a tiny spot near the edge of the map. Now it formed a substantial presence, stretching across what had once been the outer reach. "You see this as a threat," Catherine continued. "You see 23 species united against you, and you wonder if we have come to demand your surrender. You calculate military options and economic pressures and diplomatic maneuvers, trying to find some way to restore the old order that served you so well for so long." She shook her head slowly. "You are wrong. We have not come here to destroy the Coalition. We have come here to offer you something better." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Zontal leaned forward in his throne, his 4 eyes fixed on the human ambassador with desperate intensity. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice uncertain for the first time in anyone's memory. Catherine smiled, but there was no triumph in it. Only a quiet, patient hope. "You mocked us for dying in a century. You called us mayflies, creatures too brief to matter, too fleeting to contribute anything of value. But our short lifespan taught us something that you, with your centuries and millennia of existence, seem to have forgotten." She stepped closer to the high speaker, speaking directly to him now. "We learned urgency. We learned that every moment matters, because we do not have infinite time to waste on cruelty and petty dominance games. We learned that we must build something better for those who come after us, because we will not live to see the full results of our labor ourselves. We learned to think not in terms of what benefits us now, but in terms of what kind of galaxy we want to leave behind." She turned back to address the full chamber. The Coalition was built on exploitation. Strong species dominating weak ones, extracting tribute and labor and resources, treating anything smaller as a resource to be used rather than a partner to be respected. That system worked for 3,000 years because no one had the power to challenge it. But it was always wrong. It was always cruel. It was always doomed to fail eventually. She gestured toward the Earth Alliance delegation behind her. "Look at the species who have joined us. The Drenari, who were treated as slave labor for 4 centuries. The Cordath, whose children were conscripted to fight wars that had nothing to do with them. The Silurians, whose homeworld was stripped of resources to feed Coalition industries. They did not join us because we conquered them. They joined us because we offered them something the Coalition never did: respect, fairness, a seat at the table as equals, not as servants." She placed a small device on the speaking platform. It projected a document, page after page of careful text covering every aspect of interstellar cooperation. This is our proposal for a new galactic charter. Not a treaty between the Coalition and the Earth Alliance, but a framework for a new galactic order entirely. Equal representation for every member species, regardless of age or population or military power. Fair trade standards that prevent exploitation and ensure mutual benefit. Protected rights for all beings, enforced by a collective security arrangement that no single species can dominate. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the Thornaki, who usually seemed beyond surprise, had turned their attention fully to the human ambassador. "You can reject this proposal," Catherine said quietly. "You can cling to the old ways, try to rebuild the Coalition as it was. Continue the patterns of exploitation that have defined your civilization for millennia. But I think you know deep down that it will not work. The galaxy has changed. Species that once accepted your dominance have seen that another way is possible. They will not go back to being servants, no matter how much force you apply." She met Zorntalis' eyes directly. "Or you can join us in building something new. Something that does not require conquest or exploitation. Something that recognizes the worth of every species, regardless of how long they live or how recently they reached the stars. Something better." The High Speaker was silent for a long moment. His four eyes studied the human ambassador, searching for deception, for hidden threats, for the trap that surely must be waiting. But all he saw was a being who meant exactly what she said. "Why?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why offer this to us? After everything we did, everything we said, why give us a chance to be part of your new order?" Catherine smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. "Because that is what we wish you had done for us 300 years ago. Because we believe that even beings who have made terrible mistakes deserve the chance to change. Because building a better galaxy means including everyone who is willing to help, not just the people we already agree with." She stepped back from the platform. "Read the proposal. Discuss it among yourselves. Take as much time as you need. We will be here when you are ready to talk as equals." She turned and walked toward the exit, a delegation following behind her. The chamber remained silent as she left, every delegate lost in thought about everything they had just heard dot at the door. Catherine paused and looked back one final time. 1 year ago, I stood in this chamber and asked for something simple. I asked to be treated as an equal. You laughed at me. You mocked my species. You told me that we should be grateful you permitted us to exist. Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath the surface. We remembered that moment. We will always remember it. But we choose not to let it define us. We choose to be better than you were. We choose to offer the hand of friendship, even to those who once despised us. She smiled, soft and genuine and full of hope. That is what it means to be human. That is why we will succeed where you failed. And that is why, one day, the galaxy will be better than any of us could have imagined. She walked out into the corridor beyond, leaving the Galactic Council to contemplate a future that no one had expected, built by a species that no one had respected, founded on principles that seemed so simple and yet had somehow been forgotten for 3,000 years. Humanity had come to the stars as refugees, as servants, as the butt of cruel jokes. They left that chamber as the architects of a new galactic order, offering mercy to those who had shown them none. And somewhere, in the quiet archives of Earth's diplomatic corps, the original recording from that fateful council session remained preserved, not as a monument to grievance or a reminder of past wrongs, but as a lesson for future generations. They had been underestimated once. They would make certain it never happened again. And in doing so, they would build a galaxy worthy of the species they had always known they could become.